Okay. So I think we can start this one. So welcome everybody, and today we have this session about encouraging extensive reading. So I hope you will learn some things today with me. My name is Iñigo Casis, and I'm a teacher trainer at London School of Languages. And today we are going to be talking about something I think everybody should be doing, and something that I think is advantageous for all the students, and something that we should be doing much more, quite honestly, and something I'm passionate about as well, which is reading, extensive reading, and let's see if by the end of the session you agree with me, and at least some of you start using this way of teaching. So, what are we going to see today? Well, first of all, we are going to look at some definitions just to make sure that we are all on the same page and that we all know what we are talking about. Um, After that, we will talk about the many benefits that an extensive reading program has. And also, well, of course, like any other program, I guess, the challenges it poses, which are some, but quite honestly, I think benefits clearly outweigh the challenges of an extensive reading program. After that, we will see how to encourage extensive reading with our students. And finally, of course, one of the possibly, and we'll see it a bit later, one of the biggest challenges with this is that um, not every school or not everybody has a library of books, graded readers, and so on to use in one of these programs. So what I will do is I will review some useful websites you can use to implement an extensive reading program. So, and also you will see that after, but I will give you some, I think, interesting information, some interesting snippets of information about origins of words and so on. You might wonder why. Just bear with me, and at the end of the webinar, you will see why I'm giving you that kind of, you might think, random information. And I want to start with a personal example. Of course, I'm, let's say, a lifelong English learner, like any person who has studied English rather than being a native speaker. I started quite young, and in Spain, for example, which is where I am, students start learning English quite young, and they continue learning English for quite a long time. And it was, of course, an example of that as well. I felt that something was missing in my English learning. I mean, I could go to English lessons and I could have English twice a week or three times a week, but what I was feeling is that I didn't have the fluency and I didn't have the vocabulary, let's say, to talk at a higher level. So I've always been interested in reading since ever since I was a kid. I loved reading, and I've always read in Spanish, of course. But I decided that why not? Okay, I'll give it a go to reading books in English, even though my English level, of course, wasn't at all the required level for reading one of these books. And I said, okay, so I will start with Paul Auster. Paul Auster is one of my passions. He's an incredible writer. If you don't know him, he has some of his books. Great books, fantastic books. Choose any you want, and I'm sure you will not be disappointed. And my idea was to start with the New York trilogy, a great book. So I had the book in English. I had a dictionary next to me, and I started reading the book. I started understanding more and more. I started underlining expressions. I started underlining ways of saying things much more naturally than I was taught at the time in course books, etc., etc. And that was the start of it. So I continued reading books by Paul Auster, of course. I've read all his books, and like I said, I've never been disappointed by this. Possibly, this is not the best approach. Like we will see later. I mean, reading the real books, let's say, might be, unless, like I say, and it was my case, of course, you are passionate about it, and unless you really like the book you are reading, it might be for students quite off-putting because, of course, there are a lot of words you don't understand. Before moving on to the definitions, I will tell you very briefly about reading habits where I am in Spain, which possibly are not very different from other contexts in which you might be. Very briefly, interestingly, kids until the age of 14, more or less, read quite a lot. In fact, I mean, I think reading is only natural, and I think it's a way of discovering new worlds, and I think it's a way of getting away from the issues they might have, and so on. So, not surprisingly, kids between 10 and 14 are those who are frequent readers, let's say. Um, this drops dramatically between the age of 14 and 18, which is very often the age at which they are learning the higher levels. So between the age of 14 and 18, at least in our context, is where a student start studying the first certificate, the advanced, and so on. And then from 18 on, we stop reading. I mean, we very rarely read, and possibly like you see in the chart on the left, what we read is newspapers, online newspapers most of the times, and so on. And we barely read books, like you see. And it's very clear, right? So, like I say there at the top, when have you been more disengaged with reading? And it's clearly as an adult, as I say, it's only natural for kids to read um, as a, as a teenager as well, of course. And I think there is where we start losing our reading habit, and that's where we start needing more and more books. And I think that is where an extensive reading program has its place with teenagers between the ages of 12 and 18. First, snippet. Let's see if you like this one. And as I say, I will give you some of these along the webinar, and at the end, I will tell you why I'm giving you this information. So, did you know that um, whatever you pronounce that word, ipsedixitism, okay? Does anybody know what that is? Okay. That's a word used to describe dogmatic assertion without proof, okay? Something we do nowadays non-stop, I think. This can be freely used for any pontifical statement based on the assumption that if someone, somewhere, said it, then it must be true. Of course, I heard it, so it must be true. Okay, so this is the first one. And let's go with definitions. Just like I said at the beginning, to make sure that everybody is on the same page. And of course, I think the most important definition is what we understand by extensive reading. So what's extensive reading? And in Bamford and Day's words, extensive reading is an approach to language teaching in which learners read a lot of easy material in the new language. Okay, and I underline and highlight this: read a lot and easy material, because this is the two keys basically. If you need to walk away with something from this webinar, is that an extensive reading program should consist of lots of easy material, easy books, easy texts, and that students should read a lot. Unless those two conditions happen, it's very unlikely that an extensive reading program will work. Of course, what's easy material, right? That's an important question, because, like I said, possibly starting, even if it's Paul Auster, starting with real books is not the best idea. So what's easy material? Many of you possibly are familiar with Stephen Krashen and his theories. And possibly one of his most popular theories is that he pointed out the importance of a large amount of input in language acquisition. That is to say, students need to be exposed to English as much as they can. According to this input hypothesis, the optimal input for language learning is comprehensible input that is slightly, no, not really beyond, no, but because then they won't understand anything, but slightly beyond the current level of the students. And this is called I+1, okay? Like I said, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this concept. Well, in an extensive reading program, the case is the opposite. The optimal level of the reading material should be within the student's comfort zone, which is slightly below their level, okay? And we can call this I-1, okay? So slightly below their level. So the learning input is I+1, the extensive reading input is I-1. Here you have a very useful way of knowing, particularly for students assessing themselves, whether the material they have chosen is easy, is not easy, or is far beyond their level. And this is the five-finger rule, okay? A very, very easy rule. To find a good reading level, choose a book, open any page, read it, read the page, and on your hand, count the number of new words, okay? So if on that page there are between 0 and 1 new words, that material might be too easy, okay? So we want easy material, but of course not too easy, okay? If on the page there are between 2 and 3 new words, sorry, this level is perfect. Okay, fantastic. This is the level we need, okay? Between 2 and 3 new words on the page we have opened. If there are 4, this is a challenge level. I mean, it is a little difficult, but you can try the book if the book seems really interesting. Like I said, in my case with Paul Auster, right? Then you can try. However, if and this more or less, of course, but if there are 5, 4, or more, the book might be too difficult, and you probably won't enjoy it. Like I said, unless you are incredibly interested in the book and you have the right motivation, let's say, to continue reading the book. This five-finger rule, I've taken it from this website, erfoundation.org, which is a great website for extensive reading. It's well worth a visit. You will find lots of material, lots of theory behind extensive reading, and lots of ideas if you are planning to implement one of these programs. So well worth visiting it. Right. Possibly the most important principles in an extensive reading program are these 10 principles by Bamford and Day. So they try to describe what's important, what's essential in any extensive reading program. The first one, like we said, is of course that the material is easy. Okay, um, I cannot highlight enough. I cannot emphasize enough how important this is. Unless the material is easy, students won't read a lot. Okay, so it is essential that the material is easy. A variety of reading material on a wide range of topics must be available. And possibly this is the main challenge, the main issue we come across when we try to implement such a program. Because, like I said, not all schools are ready to invest. Not all schools have a library with this kind of material. So that's why at the end of the presentation, I will give you a selection of some websites where you can find these wide range of material, a variety of material. Um, Another very important thing is learners choose what they want to read. One of the problems, and I see it at schools, let's say, where my students go, is that they try to implement a kind of extensive reading program, but the problem, quite simply, is that students don't get to choose the material. And I think that's a huge mistake. So, of course, the consequence is that very often they don't like the book. If they don't like the book, of course, they won't make the effort of reading the book. And what happens is that at the end of the day, they stop reading the book, they stop the program because very simply they don't like the book. Like we said at the beginning, the definition, right? Learners read as much as possible. And this is key. An extensive reading program cannot be limited to 1 or 2 weeks because it doesn't make any sense. By its own nature, an extensive reading program should be extended over time, okay? And students need to read as much as possible. Unless students are exposed to this massive input, an extensive reading program won't make much sense. The purpose of reading is usually related to pleasure, information, and general understanding. And I would emphasize the bit about pleasure. Unless the main objective of such a program is reading for pleasure, an extensive reading program doesn't make any sense. So this is not an opportunity to ask comprehension questions. This is not, of course, an opportunity to test our students on what they are reading. I mean, they need to understand that the main purpose of reading in this case is for pleasure. That's why they need to choose the book they want. That's why it needs to be easy, and that's why they need to read as much as possible because it has to be for pleasure. Number 6, reading is its own reward. Ideally, in an ideal world, let's say, ideal world, this should be like this. It's not always like this, of course, and sometimes teachers need to think of other rewards. Okay, so like I say, these 10 principles are the ideal principles of an extensive reading program. Reading speed is usually faster than slower. So, I mean, this is why the five finger rule, right? If there are too many words we don't understand on the page, we need to stop all the time and check the words. And so the pace of reading it becomes slow. And at the end of the day, particularly if they are not too motivated, this is enough to stop reading a book. Okay, so we need to tell our students that here reading fluency is much more important than reading accuracy, in the sense that the faster they read, the more they will enjoy the book, of course, and the more they will enjoy the experience. Something very important, reading is individual and silent. Um, Reading aloud, I mean, some people might think that it's useful in some way, and I'm sure there are reasons why you might want your students to read aloud, but reading for pleasure needs to be silent and individual. So this needs to be done on their own time most of the times, although we will see a bit later that this might be different in some contexts, right? But it needs to be individual and silent. Uh, Teachers orient and guide their students. I mean, um, extensive reading doesn't mean that the teacher doesn't do anything. Of course, the teacher, and we'll see later, has a very important role. And we need to understand that we need to have a very active role, in fact, in a program like this. And finally, the teacher is a role model of a reader. I mean, if the teacher doesn't like reading, if the teacher doesn't set an example, I would tell you, if the teacher doesn't read in front of the students as well, and the teacher doesn't talk about the books he or she's reading, they don't talk with passion about books, about why reading books is a great activity, then I think a program like this will make much sense. Right, here we have the second one. Do you know that the word tomato, you will never guess this one, comes from the Aztec tomatl, which means love apple, because it was regarded as a potent aphrodisiac. Okay, there you are. Interesting information. Love apple. Okay, benefits of ER. Um, Lots of benefits, quite honestly. Then we will talk about challenges, but there are so many benefits that they outweigh clearly the challenges. Here we have some of them, and these not. Um, there are many more benefits, of course, but these are some of the most important ones, so to say. Um, Possibly one of the most important ones, and possibly one of the reasons why a school or a language school would like to have a program like this is that there are significant gains in reading skills. They improve a lot, a lot. And they improve their reading skills in general. I would say possibly the skill they improve the most is the reading fluency, of course. This is not intensive reading, remember. This is extensive reading, okay? So, which is a very, very different concept. But there are significant, not just some, but significant gains in reading skills. It increases their vocabulary knowledge. So the more they read, the more they will know. I mean, I sometimes have students asking, "What does this mean?" And it's like, where did you get that from? And they say, "No, from a book I'm reading." I say, "Oh, okay, so it means this and that." Okay, but it very clearly increases their vocabulary knowledge. Confidence as well. I mean, if you are used to reading and you can read long texts and so on, of course, there will be that increase in confidence, and that will be positive for all the rest of the learning as well, of course. They get lots of exposure to language, not only vocabulary, but language in general, grammar, fixed expressions, and in general, natural language, which then they can use when they speak and so on. Increase cultural awareness, which I think it is important, particularly in a globalized world like the one in which we are living. I think having cultural awareness it's an important thing, and particularly if they don't get that exposure from any other sources. Okay, so important as well. It gets them ready for longer texts in exams. I mean, possibly one of the main reasons why schools, language schools, and so on, are quite reluctant to implement a program like this is that they need time to prepare exams. I mean, we all know as teachers that preparing exams take a super, super long time and that every minute counts. So um, we cannot have an extensive reading program because it takes too much time of the time we need to prepare the exams. However, I think it is a mistake because extensive reading uh, get students ready for longer texts in exams clearly. Because very often, as you know, the issue or the problem is that the students get to the exam, and those are the longest texts they read in their life, so to say. I mean, very often, that's the first time they come across a text like that long. So this gets them ready for the longer texts, first certificate and advanced and so on. They get exposed to a wide variety of texts, okay, which otherwise they won't, because you know that course books, well, have maybe one text per unit, and that's what they get. Whereas with this, they get exposed to a lot of different texts and a wide variety of texts and topics. Some research goes as far as to say that it improves writing skills, okay, which is again important as well. I mean, if they are exposed to texts and they see how to write and they see examples of good language, it seems natural that they will, in a way, improve their writing skills as well. And quite honestly, at the end of the day, it is fun. Believe me, if students find a book they like, a book they enjoy, and a book they will read with pleasure, um, there are very few things in life that are so fun as reading a good book, I think at least. Right. Do you know that 14th March is Pi Day? So you might know this one. Do you know why? The date of 14th March, or 314, represents the first three digits of the famous mathematical constant. Okay? Challenges, of course. Of course, there are challenges. And some of them are enough to deter some schools from, like I say, implementing an extensive reading program. Like I said before, possibly one of the main ones is the time constraints. I mean, particularly if we are preparing exams or we have a syllabus, a program we need to implement, we need the time, and every minute counts. I mean, if we have 2 hours of class every week, it's very difficult to convince somebody that using classroom time for reading is a useful thing. Um, because again, we are taking it from possibly preparation of other things. Intensive reading is favored in most classrooms, and that's quite clear. I mean, um, because we think, and it is like that in a way, that intensive reading is the fastest way of teaching reading skills. Um, However, I must say that from what I see around, reading results are plummeting, literally. I mean, they are becoming much worse than they were before. So, okay, intensive reading, of course, it is very important that, but possibly these results, in a way, show that we need to do something else. That possibly intensive reading is not enough to improve students' reading skills. Difficulty of providing students with a variety of books, like I said. I mean, this is possibly one of the main reasons why uh, a center cannot implement an extensive reading program because there are no books there, relatively expensive. And of course, forming a good library of books is not that easy, particularly if we think that we need to give students a wide variety of books. Students' motivation and attitudes towards reading, I think this is important. Again, um, students, particularly nowadays, I think they don't really like reading. They don't really like, or they don't really want to read a book. We need to convince them that reading a book is fantastic, right? I mean, again, their attitude towards reading, no, they don't like reading. It's no, that's boring. But again, it's possibly because they haven't they haven't found the right book or the right text to read. Therefore, students cheating is possibly the consequence if we tell an unmotivated student to read a book, they will possibly end up cheating and possibly using artificial intelligence or something like that to kind of get a summary of the book, no? So nowadays it is very easy. Okay, please tell me what this book is about, and that's it, no? Which is a shame, and of course, it deprives the program of its purpose, so to say. Uh, Again, intensive reading, the outcomes are very easy to measure because we usually ask comprehension questions and so on. However, in extensive reading, outcomes are much more difficult to measure. How do you measure that they have improved the reading? It's not easy at all, but believe me, they do. Okay, might not be perceived as learning um, in a way because it is not necessarily learning. Again, it is reading for pleasure, and that should be the sole objective of a program like this. Okay, so possibly if students feel that this is learning in the traditional meaning of the word, then that might be even something negative for a program like this. And finally, lack of extensive reading experience in their L1. Like I said, they are not used to reading anymore. And like you saw at the beginning, very often the main source of texts is social media. It is possibly the internet, blogs, and so on. So, but even in their L1, I mean, the point is that if they haven't got this reading experience in their L1, in a way, it is very difficult to transfer the skills they should already have in their L1 to an L2 context. Some challenges, as you saw, but like I said, lots of benefits. And however, students' reaction to reading is usually this one. Let's be honest. Okay, let's read the book. Yeah, ha ha ha. No, this is a reaction. No. So how can we encourage extensive reading? And before doing that, I will give you another little piece of information. Do you know that the word tennis? You will never guess where it comes from. It comes from French. It comes from the imperative form of the French verb tenir, meaning to hold, receive, or take. Players would shout tenez. receive to their opponents when they served the ball. There you are. So, how can we encourage extensive reading? There are many things we can do, and so what I will do here is particularly I will look at certain aspects of the extensive reading we can take into account when we are implementing a program like this. The first one, and I think I you see that I'm emphasizing this quite a lot, is the level of the texts. Use the five-finger rule. The level of the text should be from the beginning the appropriate one. Okay, so again, if students start reading a book that is too high in level, they will stop reading it. Okay, and it might be in terms of motivation and in terms of confidence and so on. That might have an important effect on their reading, and they might just be discouraged and stop reading the books. So, for that, again, I think the best thing is to use graded readers. I mean, graded readers are at the level, okay? So, and there is nowadays there is a huge variety of graded readers you can use. And like I said, they are at the level students need because they usually go from A1 and up to C2. Okay, so graded readers is the thing to go for. Remember that the level should be below the student's current level. This is that is to say, I minus one. Okay. Uh, Possibly one of the skills that that are overlooked most of the times is using a dictionary. Okay, and it is important. I mean, nowadays I think students don't even know how to use a dictionary, and that makes them not very autonomous at the time of reading, particularly on paper. Because, of course, if they are reading on a screen or an e-reader or something like that, they just click on the word and they usually get the definition. They usually get all the information they need about the word. But particularly if they are reading on paper, they need to know how to use a dictionary. However, if they have to use it too often, the level of the text is probably wrong. Scaffolding extensive reading. It is very important. I mean, we cannot go with a book to class and say, "Ala, here you have the book, read it, and let me know what you think about the book." Okay, so that's planning for failure, quite honestly. Okay, so we need to scaffold an extensive reading program. So I think it is important to start reading in class. Like I said, of course, time constraints and so on make it difficult, but I think it is difficult to give a student a book and tell them, okay, read it at home, and that's it, okay? So that's wishful thinking, quite honestly. I mean, that doesn't work. So we need to start reading in class, and we need to start using class time to start at least reading the book. Of course, then they go home and they continue reading, and they, in a way, um, they can be much more autonomous. Start with short texts. This is essential. Again, it's like we need to introduce this little by little. We cannot, or possibly, it's not very wise to start with super long texts, which possibly will be not very engaging, not very motivating for a student. So short texts, interesting texts, and little by little, we will increase the length of the text. Get students in a group to read the same book. Sharing the experiences is a very useful way of encouraging reading. Talk about the book in class. Again, if they can share what they are reading, if the teacher shares as well their experience of reading the book and so on, that makes it much, much more interesting. Make it a term project. Why not? So they read the book over the term, and at the end, You can have some activities around the book, or you can have like a book club, or you can just in class, as he said, talk about the book, what they thought about the book, etc. But very important, without students feeling or thinking that they are being assessed. Okay, I think that's quite important, and help students choose a suitable book. I mean, very often, again, the reason why a program like this fails is because students cannot find the book that will suit their needs in terms of level, in terms of interest. Okay, so you need to help them choose the right book, let's say. But of course, agency is important as well. What do I mean by agency? Well, it's the opportunity to choose the texts they want to read. So learners choose what they want to read. I think it is very important. I mean, again, like I said before, one of the main reasons why students don't read the books from school is because they don't choose them. Teachers choose them for them, and they are usually uh, really boring, quite honestly. Okay, so we are not doing any favors here to the students by choosing the books for them. Reading is a very personal experience. I mean, I might like fantasy books. The person next to me might like crime books, and the other one might like 19th century novels, and somebody might like another book. Okay, so it's a very personal experience, and it has to do with our tastes, let's say. Um, Again, possibly the book itself, no, sometimes is a bit off-putting because of previous experiences and so on. So also letting students choose texts from different sources might be useful. So choosing the text from magazines rather than books, or online articles, blogs, etc. Okay, so it might be a good way of exposing them to these theoretically massive amount of text. Motivation is one of my favorite Simpsons characters. Sorry. So when I was writing about motivation, I thought about Ralph Wiggum. So there he is, good boy. Motivated readers enjoy reading, and that's like that. Unless you are motivated, you won't read. You will enjoy reading. Okay, so it's like if you don't like the book, enjoying the book is impossible. Teachers play a central role in motivating students. Again, we are the models. Okay, so if we if we talk about books enthusiastically, then it's very likely that students will want to read a little bit more. Okay, it's like when somebody talks to you about a fantastic film and say, "Okay, I want to watch it." Okay, so if you like it so much, it must be great. Okay, so let's not forget that teachers are very often role models for our students. Um, but of course, we can create initial interest by using video clips, for example. We can use book blurbs. Okay, so we can give them a selection of blurbs and tell them, okay, which one do you think you like? Which one sounds interesting for you? Okay, and possibly short extracts from the books. Okay, like some kind of teasers. No, we can say. I mean, if you go to Amazon and so on, what they do is they give you the first couple of pages. Okay, in the hope that you will read that, and naturally, you, particularly if it is interesting, you will want to read more from that book. Um, Talk about the book they are or books they are reading as often as possible in class. I think a way of keeping them motivated is talking about the book. Okay, so it is important that they express what they think about the book, whether they like it or not, as well. Okay, why not, and share their enthusiasm for the book. So, like I said, I think it is important. Um, Ready readers, like I said, I think it's the logical kind of book to use in an excessive reading program. Ready readers, basically, you all know that are books of various genres that are especially created for learners of foreign languages. So they are graded in language, they are graded in plot, they are graded in grammar, they are graded in vocabulary. So to make it easier for the students to read. But of course, graded readers are a bridge to the eventual reading of authentic reading materials. I mean, the objective is that at the end of the process, they are able to read material that is authentic, of course, which again, it's a great motivation for them as well. Go, oh, I can read this book from this author I like, okay? They have a limited number of words, vocabulary, and grammar structures. So again, the length is very important as well. Okay, and as I said, they go usually from A1 to C2, and the number of words is very carefully chosen to fit the level of the students. And I don't know if you have noticed this, but visual support is usually provided in graded readers, which again helps students follow the plot and help the students follow the story, let's say. The role of the teacher, as I said, it is important because, again, um, we are role models in class. Providing material that is interesting and of an appropriate level in a way is one of the main things we have to do. Students might not know how to choose the books, so we can give them a choice of books they can use according to the level, according to the interest of our students. Talking about the benefits of excessive reading, I think we have to preach a little bit here, in the sense that we need to convince them that reading a lot is good for them. Uh, in, in general, not only for language, let's say, yeah, but also for, in a way, learning new things, learning about culture and so on, and enjoying, as I was saying, okay? So not only from the point of view of language, uh, modeling good reading habits, okay? So if we, again, tell them how we read, how much we read, and so on, they will for sure be more interested in reading. Deciding whether class time will be used for ER, and I would say yes, use classroom time. It is again the benefits are huge. So use some of of this time to read together in class in silence, but together in class. Assessing outcomes in a way we can try to assess. But I say this again: students shouldn't feel that they are being assessed. Because again, the aim or the main aim of an extensive reading program should be reading for pleasure, keeping the students' motivation and ensuring that they don't get frustrated. I think that's our role here. I mean, if we see that they are stopping reading and they don't continue and so on, we talk to them, maybe change the book or find ways of keeping them motivated and not letting them get frustrated. Did you know that? The first recorded lottery in England, you will never guess when this was drawn on the 11th of January 1569 at the western gate of the old St. Paul's Cathedral before it was burnt. And the word lottery is based on a Germanic word for an object lot used in a chance selection. There you are. Okay, like we said, one of the main limitations is that we don't have books at our schools, or we don't have enough books. That's why here I will show you three websites in which you can find free material to read at different levels, so to say. And the first one is ercentral.com. This is a fantastic website dedicated to extensive reading. Okay. In this website, you will find a wide variety of texts in 20 different levels. So you have quite a lot of levels to choose from. Okay. They have over 1,000 texts divided into 20 different levels. They have four main reading genres: factual, story, children's story, and students' writing, which is material produced by students. It's free of charge, it's totally free, so well worth visiting it. And it has a timed reading feature in not all the texts, okay, but yes, in some of them. And they have a five-star rating system for the texts, okay, which again might be very useful at the time of choosing the book you want to read. It has two different sections, one for the students, one for the teachers, with different features for all of them. Like you see, for the teachers, they have all these, okay, so lots of useful material. And in the library for the students, what you will see is you can choose the level, and then you have the four main categories: factual, story, children, student, writings. And in each one, you have lots of different genres you can choose from, okay? Crime, health and body, history, sports, lots of variety, as I say, and it's all free. Another one is free graded readers .com. Again, it's great because you get graded readers that are for free, divided by level, and they use, in fact, the five-finger rule to choose the books. A1 to C2 level texts are available here. PDF version can be downloaded, so if you are using an e-reader or something, this can be quite useful. Most books contain visuals, which is, again, like I said before, quite useful for the students. And quizzes are available for some books, okay, not all of them. And it uses the five-finger rule, as I said, to talk about the level of the books. The only issue with this website, quite honestly, is that the selection of titles is limited, okay? But again, it's for free, so visit it, and I'm sure you will find something you like. And finally, learner English teens, learn English teens .britishcouncil.org. Again, this is a free a website where you can find free books, and they are graded from A2 to B2. Okay, in each one you will find different texts, and you will find 24 stories. Okay, so again, there's not a huge variety of texts, but they are for free and they are graded. Okay, so I think it is good enough. A2 to B2 levels, reading comprehension quizzes. This is quite useful as well to help the students understand the book and so on if you want. But like I always say, they shouldn't feel that they are being assessed. Okay, they are reading for pleasure. Remember that. Grammar quizzes as well. Um, Again, drawback that stories might be too short in this one. Okay, but again, it's for free. You have 24 stories. You have lots of material to use with the stories, and it's really well organized, and it's great. Okay, so visit it as well. Before I finish, a little success story, and because, like I said, from personal experience, extensive reading works. Okay, and I will tell you about a student I had, and she was a huge fan of Harry Potter, and she wanted to read the real books, so the authentic books. Not she didn't want a graded reading. She wanted the real book because she was so into Harry Potter that she wanted to read all the books and write to the author, to J.K. Rowland, which was fantastic. So she started reading the books. She could read the books. She learned lots of vocabulary. She learned lots of language, and it was a pity that she didn't write that letter to J.K. Rowling, but that kept her going for the whole course, like with the objective of writing to this author. At the end of the course, she finished the books. She could read the books, and she was at the B1 level at the time. And now, 3 years later, she's at a C1 plus level. Okay, so you see that she's flown literally. Okay, and I tell you that extensive reading had a lot to do with that. Final one. Did you know that the word goodbye comes from God be with ye? Okay, it's a contraction of the expression God be with ye. Okay, and with this, I finish here. I tell you goodbye. All this information about the origin of the words and so on has been taken from this book, Word Perfect, and this is a way of possibly encouraging students as well. Okay, so you give them this kind of information, you tell them, okay, where do you think comes from, and so on. Well, here you have the book, and you have many more words you can learn and where they come from, and so on. Okay, so it might be a good way of motivating them. So, like I said, here I say goodbye. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you soon. So, goodbye.